It's like super long.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
do. I
long.
think fascist as a term has kind of lost meaning,
I agree.
but
People don't use it correctly whatsoever.
I can kind of see where the leftists are coming from. I know like how we're always criticizing them, and I kind of agree with your guys' criticisms. But like from their point of view, like they see a human life in Iraq as like the same as a human life in the US.
Sure, and I would agree, but that's still liberalism, so I don't know why we wouldn't use liberalism as the pejorative. I don't think we have to take it all the way to
I just
fascism.
think a lot of people in the US are politically
Illiterate? Yeah, I'd agree. They definitely are politically illiterate.
and I mean, would it be better if the like is this the term liberal doesn't always have negative connotations? Like, okay, obviously in like lefty circles it does, but
It
like
depends on what you're talking about when you say liberal. We could be talking about liberal as in like the word of it, like things being like loose and able to go with the flow sort of attitude of liberalism, or you could be
yeah,
talking about the political ideology of liberalism, which is
but most people in
free market
America think of liberal
capitalism
as the first
with
one.
like democracy, like liberal democracy. It's like it's
Don't you think
basically
most people in America think of liberal as like sort of the first one?
uh
I think they think of it more as like
no. I think when people use liberal in the US, they think of Democrats.
Yeah, or that's a better description. But yeah, so I think some like that's maybe a reason why they want to use the term fascist so it can have
Well, because they want it to sound worse, which is I get that, but like it's just wrong. It's like it's like I'm trying to think of like something that's. It's like if I wanted to call someone who killed two people instead of calling him a murderer, if I wanted to call him like a mass murderer or a terrorist, when like he isn't a terrorist, but that sounds worse. But being a murderer in itself is already bad. So like I don't get
individual
Yeah, but
terrorists.
it's kind of hard doing that with the term liberal A and B.
Well, I think as long as you understand what liberal
is really
means.
bad. Do you agree with me there? Like the term fascist and it's like 14-point definitions are kind of
No, well, I think that's why I think it's way easier to summarize fascism as like some sort of ethnic, racial superiority with a rejection of liberal democracy, while maintaining capitalist relations.
Principles.
Yeah, and the rejection of like the Enlightenment principles that came upon with liberalism.
Mm-hmm.
While socialism, on the other hand, is like an extension of those principles and
they followed
all that stuff.
The Enlightenment's principles to its natural conclusion, as far as I'm concerned. Even if liberalism still fails in a lot of ways, and in turn, capitalism as a system is how we live now. I think socialism, from what Enlightenment values are just like a logical.
Well, the reason why I have a problem with this calling liberals fascist is like, okay, maybe they're conservative, like compared to like communist and socialist, right? But at one point they were the most progressive people. Like at one point they were the revolutionaries. At one point it was revolutionary to be a liberal. Like I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
No, you're absolutely right.
And capitalism,
Nancy Pelosi would be a revolutionary. Like she was the first woman.
Yeah, and capitalism was an amazing thing at the time that it came to be, you know? Like, I mean, like, these are good things, and, like, obviously they're out, like, weighing their, like, stay. Like, obviously we need to, like, move on to, like, socialism or something like that. But, like, we can't call these things, like, fascism when they're not that, because fascism is literally the rejection of what these people stand for. So, like, they literally can't be fascist. Like,
ISIS coming out as a liberal.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm a hardline Marxist. I literally got capital on my desk right now. I just am so tired of this idea that we.
Do you ever argue with liberals?
I do, yeah, all the time. Like when it comes to like capitalism versus socialism, of course, I'll fucking body any of them when it comes to capitalism versus socialism. I think it's time.
To, like politicians, like Pelosi, or like.
I mean, obviously, I would always go with the more progressive, like politician, but I would pick them over any conservative.
That's fair.
And
any
I
reasonable.
and I mean that's the thing. We have to slowly move that way. I mean, like, unless we want a revolution right now, which is literally impossible, that's what we have to do. We have to do incremental change. We have to try to like do as much damage control as
Nice.
possible. We need to help the material conditions of the working class and all of these things while we educate people to even try to take on the project that is socialism, that is like so biased against when it like because of the failure of like the USSR and people who point at Venezuela. Like, we have so much bias against socialism that we can't just like go, oh, we're gonna like ignore these liberals and somehow get socialism or get like some third party that's gonna be like eco-socialist or something. It's just not
Don't forget,
possible.
socialism is popular now. So yeah.
Well, I mean, we're getting there, but it's still, I mean, like, the population is heavily apolitical or
Yeah,
neoliberal.
sorry, I was being sarcastic about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're growing. I mean, I give Bernie Sanders credit. Maybe Bernie Sanders isn't actually a socialist. He's a sockdem, maybe a crypto socialist, but he normalized socialism and got people looking into it,
Yeah,
which is
I think
amazing.
secretly a socialist.